I've said this many times that my art is a lifelong journey in growth, discovering who I am and my relationship to the world and my observations to the world around me.
You're a passionate creative, and so are we. Join me, Brie Stockwell, and my podcast partner, Len Metcalf, as we navigate the ups and downs of living creative lives while teaching you how to do it too. Time to pull back the curtain on our creative affair. Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Brie. I'm here with Len. And I've been out of town and we've been doing all kinds of things, but we're back to recording. But you didn't really know that because the podcast kept going. So we take like breaks, but we record a bunch and we take breaks. We like that. So Len and I were discussing, and we really want to do a 3-part series about writing about your work, our work. And today we want to start with talking about artist statements. And part of the catalyst for it was that I actually just released Len, I don't know if you've seen, but I just released my artist statement finally on my website. And I don't know that in my head, seriously, the whole time I was like, do you want me to just send you the link to it? Here.
I'm typing it into Google to get you.
Well, I'm gonna send it here. I sent it on Riverside. So I sent you my portfolio link. Part of my hang up with not releasing it was my thinking like, oh, I don't know what I have to say, or I don't know if I'm doing an artist statement correctly. And I really think a lot of us as artists, like I even looked up like Georgia O'Keeffe artist statement, and she was like, it's hard to describe in words what my art is. So I don't even know if she has one. Do you know, Len? Does Georgia O'Keeffe, I'm going to look her up again. Because I was like, what? Oh, here's what she says. Words and I are not friends. That's what she commented to someone. And I was like, yeah, sometimes, I mean, like I talk a lot, but when I go to write, I'm like, what do I have to say?
You do talk a lot. We're at 2.5 minutes in and I haven't said anything yet.
True. But I gave you time to read my artist statement, so you're welcome.
Thank you. And I absolutely love the first 4 words. Is it 4? I have to count them. I am an artist, and I agree with you totally. And I find that a really liberating and beautiful statement that releases you from the bounds of all those bloody photographers that are running around telling you how to do photographs and like, shut
Right.
up, people. Stop telling us what we should do and let us experiment and push the boundaries and do whatever we like. It's one of my little bugbears, and I've been on Instagram attacking people for telling people that they have to use M mode in their camera. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm allowed to use whatever letter I want of the alphabet on my camera, and I'm an artist. Leave me alone.
Including A for auto.
A or P for professional. But
Right. You know, wait, I want to, I have a little mini side story. So Saturday I went to it's the Utah, is it Museum of Fine Art? Shoot, I'm going to mess up what the name is. Anyway, it's the art museum on the University of Utah campus. And I went with a good friend of mine who is also an artist who mostly does photography. But we went to this exhibit called Photo Secession, which we've talked, if you've been a longtime listener of this show, you and I have talked, Len, about Georgia O'Keeffe and Alfred Stieglitz. And so Alfred Stieglitz coined this term, photo secession, which meant, we're going to walk away from the realism of photography and now do and now it's art. Now make it whatever art form that we want it to be. And then he came back and said, actually, it changed my mind. I don't want to do that. Like, I don't think photography should be this anymore. And I'm like, well, you release the hounds. And so now what's is so interesting to me is now we have all of it. Now we have photography as like art with a capital A. We have photography as a means to like just recreate exactly what we saw. And then like I'm great with all of it. And then sometimes people who aren't argue about it. And so, which is why I think an artist statement, back to the original subject, is really important so that other people understand what you're trying to say with your art, what it is that you mean to do with it, and why it, maybe even why it is in the world. I'd like to hear more from you, Len, about like what is an artist statement? Is there a right way to do it? Write it?
Oh, what an interesting question, and one that I'm very opinionated on about, because the process of writing one and figuring them out is a mammoth journey and undertaking of trying to understand what your art means and your art making process and the products that you make, the artworks that you make mean to you. And I don't really think of an artist's statement as something about having to share it with the world. I think it's an incredibly introspective process that allows one to understand our artwork better. And it has this benefit of being able um, to put it with your submissions for proposals or exhibitions, or put it in out on your website and all those sort of things. And but the true value is exploring what your work means to you and being able to describe that to someone else. And I think they're incredibly valuable as a process to understand your art better. And I encourage every single one of you, listeners, to challenge yourself to write one. And you can't sit down and write one in 10 minutes or even a day. I personally have found that it takes me months of thinking and looking and questioning and exploring and reading other people's ones.
And I would say I could write it in a day, but it would take me a long time to formulate what I wanted to actually write about it. Right. And being very deliberate and intentional about writing the artist statement and maybe collecting feelings or words about it and putting them into a note. I'm pretty sure I did that. I don't so sorry, I had a cough drop. So when I went to go write mine, I was like, I know that because I do a lot of work on my own beliefs, and I knew I wanted to start mine with I am an artist, because I think a lot of people, especially like photographers, don't believe they're artists. And I wanted to like proudly just say that I am one. This is what I believe myself to be. And then all the other things, and I'll link to mine in the notes, but all the other things are about kind of me personally, like what I've learned, where I go, and what my art means to me. Is there something that I should be like including? Is there like a more of a right way to do this, Len? Is there like a formula? That's where my brain went. But
I'm actually I've been searching because I have a formula and I really love it, and I
mm,
can't find it. This particular person says that it's a to use a metaphor of cooking.
mm.
Yeah. And so the first thing you need to do is to find out what all your ingredients are. And rather than starting with the end, let's come back to looking at our artwork and analyzing what are all the ingredients that you use. So um, let's start with the easiest ones. So we've got materials. That's really easy to start with. Um, I'm a lens-based artist, so we can start with my lenses and my cameras, and um, we can move on to uh, printing. Like I use an inkjet printer. I use the darkroom. I love printing on paper. Um, there's a whole lot of material things there that are really easy just to write them all down in a brainstorm on a sheet of paper. So these are all my material parts. And what about subjects? What do you photograph? Oh, Len, you photograph trees. You photograph flowers. You photograph, oh, stylistically, Len, you photograph in monochrome. You photograph in you print in sepia and process in sepia. You have an obsession with square. Um, you
Yeah, you
are
do.
interested in abstraction and, as you said, photo succession or the pictorialists. I have so many pictorialist books on my shelves. Um, I also spent 30 years carrying a large format camera around trying to do my Peter Dombrovskis and Elliot Porter color in sharp,
Mhm.
straight photography work as well. And so those things all go into my brainstorm about what it is that's important to me. And I also have to go in as to ask, why do I make art? Uh, is it for healing? Is it to educate myself? Or is it to show off on Instagram or have an exhibition? So those sort of things can go in there. Like, what's my relationship with art and sharing or making it for myself or both? And how do they sort of fit in? And what am I learning from it? What does it teach me?
Do you think that those last questions, like, why do I make art? What does it teach me? Those kind of questions. I I'm assuming that those are the hardest to answer. Um, and that's maybe what keeps people from, spending time writing an artist statements, because putting those kinds of thoughts and probably strong emotions, because we're listen, we're all passionate creatives, so we have strong emotions about our art, right? And so being like wanting to put that into words is kind of maybe a little tricky. Love your thoughts on that.
Well, let's go back to Georgia O'Keeffe. Words and I don't mix well. I
we're, we're not friends.
We're not friends, she says. I'm the same. Like, I really struggle with words, and my English, I have a huge downer on. Anyway, we've talked about that before, but um, people like you and me turn to art because we can use it to find expression of feelings and thoughts without using words. Now, that might not be one of the only reasons, but it's a huge one for me personally. And I know you as a musician that you're expressing yourself emotionally without using words as well. And this is incredibly common amongst artists, that we've turned to art as a different way of expressing ourselves because of that we struggle with words. And it's challenging. Of course, it's going to be challenging to go there. So many of my students over the years, when I ask them why do you make art? Why are you making this work? Struggle with that answer. And they haven't stopped to think about, oh, it was fun. I do it because it's there. It's, that same thing like climbing Mount Everest. I climbed it because it was there. What a load of bullshit. Like, there's more to things than that. It wasn't just there. Like, there's so much more going on, but we have to dig deep to find them and to explore them. They're not just going to surface quickly. I've said this many times that my art is a lifelong journey in growth, discovering who I am and my relationship to the world and my observations to the world around me. So it's a ongoing educational experience.
Yeah. It's an interesting process. I just went back and peeked at mine really fast, and when I was writing this, I was talking about my process, like the journey to becoming an artist for me, because my artist statement is it is partly about my own journey, and because making photos, the act and practice of photography has taught me so much about myself. Like that's what I have gotten from it is more understanding about me. And one of the things that I surprised myself with when I was writing this was this part where I said, I've developed a strange desire for vulnerability. And it's kind of weird because being vulnerable doesn't always feel that great. It feels a little scary, but also like I kind of want that. Like, what happens if I put this work out into the world? What is someone going to say about it? Like, I kind of like the practice of being a little bit scared and seeing what happens and seeing how I feel about it now that it's out in the public. Like it's a strange desire, you know? And so in the process of writing it, I discovered that I was that was interesting to me when I didn't actually know that. And so I think in writing this statement, I think there's a lot of things that we discover. I guess if you're like a songwriter and you love playing with words, this might be easier. But also, you still have to talk about your art and yourself versus just making the art. I think it's totally, it seems totally different, like it's connected, but not.
You you could consider it like a song or a poem that, um, it could be, one that you work on for the rest of your life, and you keep tweaking it and changing it and modifying it, or it could be one that you leave and next month you start again and you write something that's different and changed, because what you have here is a snapshot of today, or not today, the day that you wrote it and what you were thinking. And we can't expect to stay there for the rest of our lives. We are hoping that we keep growing and developing, and that art keeps teaching us more and more, and that your reasoning and your understanding of what's happening will be very, very different in 6 months' time, or a year's time, or 2 years' time. And therefore, the artist statement has grown and changed and become something else.
Mm,
I would like to
yeah.
think of it as a journey, or as a maybe a journaling or a record keeping of where I am at the moment. And through the process of doing it, I'm finding out who I am and my relationship to my art.
Yeah. I do feel that way. Like that every once in a while I want to come back and see if it still rings true or if there's some way that I've changed that I want to express again. Um, so yeah. I love the idea of the growing. Were you going to say something?
I've got a very dear friend who's an art teacher, and uh, I was asking what, you know, out of all the things that she tells her art students, what's the most important that she uses over and over again? And her words were, "What is your art trying to say?" And this is one of the things, when I was talking about what you want to put onto your sheet of paper as your ingredients for cooking up your artist statement. The one that I left out was I had all those very introspective ones about it, meaning and those sort of things, but asking yourself, what is it that it's trying to say, and what are you saying with it, is something that's worth exploring and, um, coming to grips with, and allowing that to evolve and to grow over time as you understand yourself. I found that I've done this multiple times in my life, and I found the process of doing this was enlightening, and it's had so many incredibly beautiful repercussions that now, when it comes to talking about my art, and while I'm making it, I also have a lot a lot deeper sense of meaning about what I'm trying to do and why I want to do it and why it is important to me.
Maybe the artist statement is, well, maybe there's no maybe. Seems like the artist statement can be very grounding. And after I wrote it, I felt that way too. Like this feels foundational. Now that you say, what is your art trying to say? Or what am I trying to say with my art? I think I need to add more of that into mine. Like, I mean, it's just an initial one. It's in a growth process. It was what I wanted to say then. you know? And I don't mind like adding more later. I don't mind that. I don't think that's like you said, it doesn't have to be the thing now. And I felt like if I got hung up on it, I would never put out at least that. So I'm like, forget it. I already wrote that. I'm going to put it out and then I will add more as I discover more about what I want to say in it, you know?
I would
So,
agree. Yeah, and that's the whole point of keep
mhm.
going on it.
Yeah,
Keep adding. It can turn into an essay. It can be longer. Is there a formula? Um, some people would say yes, and some people would say no. It can be as long or as detailed as you like. And in the process of making it, you make it longer to then later trim it down to what you really want. I was thinking maybe an example might be a good way to finish up here.
sure.
It was through this process myself of writing out things. I have a preference for printing on uh, fine art rag paper. Either a pulp, a bamboo, a cotton pulp, or a wood pulp, or something. And that turned up in my artist statement, this thing about paper. And another thing that turns up in my artist statement and my self reflection is a absolutely passionate environmentalism about stopping trees being cut down. And so here we have this clash
It's a
between
duality
it's a
for
duality.
sure.
You know, we have to chop down some forests to make the paper, and we're trying to recycle paper and minimize the production of it. And yet I love it and I'm passionate about it, and yet it's a symbolism for the trees that I'm trying to save. And when I actually started to figure that out, it changed the meaning of paper for me. And I never reach for the blocks of plastic paper anymore. There's still some there that I have left over from printing with my son, but I always reach for the paper one, the one that keeps me connected with the trees that I'm actually trying to talk about in my work. Now that connection, uh, it surfaced in this process about writing my artist statement and reflecting on the fact that I was a drawer. Like I painted in watercolors and I used charcoal, pencil, and pen and ink. I have this long term relationship with sheets of paper, not with canvas, not with painting on metal or printing on plastic. It's with paper. And that goes into my artist statement. And now that I understand that, I can easily talk about it. And someone goes, "Well, why do you use that paper, Len?" And instead of saying it's the best, which a lot of people subjectively try to say, which is a load of bullshit. Like, it's not an objective thing. It's very, very subjective. Like, why is there thousands of papers to choose from? Uh, I have my reasons and I understand why I have my preferences and my love for it. And it makes my life simpler and easier. And I could explain that to someone. I absolutely love this paper because, and then off I can go talking about the trees and my drawing and my art history and my life and why I choose particular papers that I choose today because of their environmental sustainability is part of choosing a paper that I'll buy today. So all those things surfaced through sitting down, examining why and how and what I'm trying to say in my artwork, and even just writing down the materials and what it is that I'm making that surfaced in my artist statement. What an incredibly valuable journey that was for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, that's really beautiful. And you don't have to be a photographer to go on that, that similar journey. You can find connections, right? I think what you're saying with this example is as you do it, you find even deeper connections and learn more about yourself in the doing of it because you're learning now and you're mm, you're exercising putting in words what's in your heart. And I think that's really important. I think the last thing, I know you're going to say something, but I also wanted to say, like, I think in general, we're talking about overall artist statements, like the I am an artist blanket statement. But artist statements can also be for a specific exhibition you're doing, a specific collection of work. And each one might have, you might talk about it in a slightly different way. And I also think those are valuable too, because we don't, describing your overall work is for sure for me interesting because I have all different kinds going on. Like we have different kinds going on. But talking about one collection is really fun and also it helps you fine tune what you're trying to say with the work when you like finally get it all together. So for sure, like I actually want to go now because I just have collections up and I don't say a lot about them and I want to go write more about them because it will help me understand it better.
And even just about one artwork, like what is it about this particular artwork that works for you or talks to you? You can write a little statement or an artist statement just about one piece of art. A forward to a collection in a book or a zine or something, that's another form of artist statement. There's so many different approaches. A statement of intent could be something that you might write before you even go to make art, a project plan. Yeah. Very, very valuable to be reflecting about your art uh, through the process of writing and using words and documenting what is going on. I think it's something we all really should do and dive in and explore.
Agreed. So those things sort of that Len just talked about, we're going to talk about next time. I think that's the one for next time. But we're going to talk even more about it. So get ready for more of that. Ultimately, we want to understand our art better. And we feel that this is one of the paths to doing that, like a huge path to doing that. So yeah. Len, you have your artist statement, right? You have
I
yours. I'll
do.
share mine. I'll share mine on my portfolio page. We'll share Len's, and you can go read those, and then go see if you can write your own if you haven't done it yet, or if you have, maybe it's time it needs a little refresh. Like maybe you need to check in. Maybe this is a good time for that. So, anyway, thanks,
Well,
Len. That was fun.
what a wonderful little episode. So, thank you for joining us and lovely to chat to you as always, Brie. And I look forward till next time. So, goodbye, all. Yeah,
Bye,
all.
y'all. Y'all.
Y'all. We say, see you later, mate.
We say adios,
Oh,
muchacho.
adios. Okay. Farewell.
Bye. Well, wasn't that fun? As we close another episode of A Creative Affair, would you click on your podcast player and leave us a 5-star review and share with another passionate creative like yourself? Thanks. To find out more about our creative work and mentoring, visit Len at lenschool.com or me, Brie, at creativemindscoach.com.